for us, it's all about taking this sort of heightened absurdity of the concept and then burying like real grounded characters within that insanity. And I think that to us is the intersection of those things is where our taste is and where our sense of humor is. And very much just the sort of design of what both of these movies, and I would say all of our all of our work is.
Hello, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America. In this episode, a woman and her sister must outrun rival families hunting them in directors Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett's horror comedy, Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. This sequel to the 2019 feature Ready or Not finds Grace, the lone survivor of the first film, discovering that she's trapped in the next level of the nightmarish game. This time, with her sister along for the ride. In addition to the Ready or Not films, Bettinelli-Olpin and Gillette's other directorial credits include the feature films Abigail, Scream 2022, Scream 6, and Devil's Due. Following a screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Bettinelli-Olpin and Gillett spoke with director Jorma Taccone about filming Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. Listen on for their spoiler-filled conversation.
This is for the DGA podcast, so really give it up, you guys. So that, oh yeah, woo! This is the most
sounds like a packed
one.
house on the pod. It sounds like a packed house on the pod.
Full disclosure, I've known Matt for a very long time, so I'm biased because I like him as a person. No, I absolutely love the film. I love the first film, and I like calling it a film because I think that gives it a real loft.
Great.
Thank you.
I love that patina.
You're welcome, guys. The first thing I wanted to ask was just about the sequel status and the fact that this is based on the first film, which I think did quite well and people absolutely love. And just what was the process of you guys with this, the storytelling and how involved you guys were from jump with storytelling and maybe the script stuff? No shade to anyone who's in the WGA. Obviously, you were incredibly, totally respectful of that process. But what was that like? Did you guys know that you wanted to start it from where the last film ended off, or from jump, or how did that work?
Yeah, that was like the first idea, was that it would be immediately where she ends the last movie. And it was, let's go from here, put her through it again. And that a ton of other stuff changed over like the 7 years since the first one came out.
It was 7 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we shot in 2018, came out in 2019. And yeah, so I mean,
there was a pandemic that happened.
Yeah, I would think every year that passed too, we were like, at what point does Sam age out of being able to transition? And you can see that she
not at all.
She like
no.
In
fact, when you said 7 years,
in the intervening 6 or 7 years, and I think the thing that really grabbed us conceptually was the idea that the end of the first movie is the sort of midpoint of this story, and that the second movie would be the inverse of what you've experienced in the first movie. That would sort of take you from her lowest and end in this very weird sort of fucked up version of a wedding, as the first movie sort of starts with this idyllic wedding and ends with Grace, very, very much alone. And then kind of being able to calibrate, over the sort of 6 years that we sat with it, we knew there had to be an emotional reason to tell another story about Grace. And we had worked with Kathryn Newton on Abigail, and she has such a similar energy to Sam. She's just like so silly and fearless and just lovely to work with. And we thought they'd be so good as sisters. And so coming off of Abigail, that was kind of our pitch to get back into this story. And we'd tried a few paths with it before this sister idea clicked. And then it got to sort of developed it almost as a rom-com in some respects, right? It's this story of these two people who are very much apart at the beginning and then have to learn to fall in love with each other again by the end of the movie.
So, what was my next question? Wait, where was this shot? Same location too? Like, were you guys?
We were in Toronto. We went to Toronto to do it we got all the same people back too. Like most of the department heads were all the same. We did with the first one. And the idea going to Toronto was we can go to Toronto and find a cool big place to do this. And that was not the case. So it's like,
I think there are 10 company moves in 30
right.
days and 9 mini moves in addition to those 10 full company moves in 30 days.
There's only like a very little of it actually shot in Toronto. Everything else is about an hour in any direction.
Wow.
And only four days more than the first,
30
the first
days.
movie. So it was like, the hardest thing we've ever made.
So that was absolutely the biggest challenge in making this one.
Yeah, there were days where we were like, "There's no way we're gonna be able to make this movie," like because the scope in the script and the idea and what we wanted to do got this much bigger.
Yeah,
and we were given this much more to work with.
Yeah, we were weirdly locked into things. Like we couldn't. There was no returning to locations. There were no cover sets. It was just we like woke up crossing our fingers every day.
Were the like the running through woods and things like were those all different locations then too? Like
Yeah, that's all like
the Boyd Conservation.
Yeah, it's like an hour north of Toronto.
Yeah,
and we had to go up there and shoot up there for like a week.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Was that broken up too, or was that all?
That was broken up, I believe, a little bit.
Yeah,
but we got most of it in like a chunk.
But we scouted during the dead of winter, and so everything that we saw was covered in snow. And we it sort of crossed our fingers and hoped that we'd have an early spring. We pushed all that exterior until the deepest end of the schedule, and we lucked out. I mean, they got a ton of weather and a ton of moisture, and spring came a few weeks early, which saved us.
How chronological did you get to shoot? Because obviously, like when you're making something like this, where the special effects makeup is so crucial for like how much damage they're taking. Like, was that? I mean, I'm assuming that was obviously.
It was roughly chronological up until all the exterior stuff, because we saved all that to the end.
Right.
I mean, those looks, though. I think one of the things that and it was the same on the first movie. The scene in the kitchen where Grace locks herself in the refrigerator in the freezer, and Faith is slammed up against the door. We shot that the first week, and
that and all the other all the hospital stuff was like one little chunk.
But there's something I think that while it feels counterintuitive, we actually really like the idea of establishing the final look, at least the most sort of worn, devolved look of the characters early on, because it feels like, in the early naivete of the process, we always seem to go harder. And it's great because then you get to reverse engineer that look, which always gives us different ideas, new ideas, sort of forces us to push the action sequences, the violence, like the level of sweat and dirt, to push it all harder in the earlier parts of the film then. And that's been, I think,
it's what we did on the first movie.
Yeah, in everything.
The last like 10 minutes of the first movie were the first week of filming.
What was that on the first one by design that you knew that you wanted to do that, or was it that like that happened and then you were like, oh, this is actually great because now I see what she's supposed to look like at the end?
It was just location based.
Gotcha.
And it worked really well, and I think it's something we've just kind of taken with us as we've gone.
And there's also something about like getting that hard shit out of the way, like putting the crew to the test really early on. I think it
it's
like
bonding.
Lubricates the process, and like it brings everyone together because it feels like you've achieved something really, really significant in the early stage of something, and it just sort of juices everybody to.
It's also really messy.
There's some crazy shit at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
So was that like that was the wedding stuff first then, or just like the looks of characters?
The wedding stuff was towards the end.
Yeah.
The wedding stuff was towards the end. Yeah. And then the actual last scene with the sisters, that was literally the last day.
Oh, gotcha.
But yeah.
What were some of the other things that you learned in making the first one that then aided in this one?
Trust Samara.
Yeah.
She, as you know as well.
Oh, I mean, the reason I did a movie called Over Your Dead Body, which Samara is in specifically because Matt was like, she's amazing. You have to work with her.
I think that was a big one, honestly. It was
trust
the actors, listen to them, let them make it their own.
And trust your limitations, I think, was the other big one.
Yeah.
I mean, we went into the first Ready or Not, and in the early days of prep, our producer, Trip Vinson, who has become just like a dear friend and we've learned so much from, he told us very early on, he said, you know, we're going to have to do some really painful work to achieve this movie. And we can do that now. We can all just sort of look at each other and lock arms and agree we're going to cut 7 pages and it's going to be shitty because we're going to have to lose things we love. But we should go into this movie knowing we can achieve what's on the page in the best way possible, instead of dumbing the script, everything in the script down 10% to achieve what we think we might be able to achieve. And I think that process, just knowing like that those limitations actually really force you to focus your point of view, focus on the characters instead of the spectacle. And then even in those fight scenes, to not get too in your way about how stylized it should be or what kind of gear you're using, but to really just like be there and close and with the characters. And that's ultimately, I think, what emerges as the identity of the first movie. And then, really, really tried to bring that same really like scrappy sort of ethos into the.
What was one of the things that you were actually was painful to lose in that process, either like cutting pages in the beginning or in the edit?
On the first movie?
Sure, you can go first movie if you want.
Well, in the first movie, we cut like a ton of it was like a car crash and all this like cool fun shit that just had to go.
Yeah, just spectacle and all great and like very, very like tonally aligned with what the movie is, but just too ambitious.
Yeah. But on this one,
Gotta take my pills. It's 9:00.
All right, great.
I fell off a ladder, but I'm fine, guys. It's okay.
But this one was more like because of the location thing we were talking about earlier. It was that set piece is no longer going to work. Let's think of some new thing here. So it was a lot of working with guys.
And that was happening during like location scouting.
Yeah. And I mean, we must have had like probably 5 great set pieces that had to go. And it kept being like, well, that's not going to work. What can we bring to this next location? And we can make something, find a way to do something. Like I think the laundry room machine was a fairly late ad.
Oh, yeah.
That was like
was that based on like a location thing, or
it was a hotel laundry room, and we were like, we can use that. Location. Let's do something. It's
pretty gross,
but it was also a functioning laundry room in an active hotel, the Royal York Hotel. So we only had 4 hours to shoot and a run, and that whole sequence was 7 hours of shooting to achieve it with all the effects work. And so it was just that kind of. It was just that kind of shoot from from day one.
How much do you guys storyboard? I mean, like obviously, like I would imagine a lot of the action stuff, or
not really.
Very, very little.
Yeah, and when we do, we then never really look at it.
Yeah, we actually find storyboard.
I do that with like shot list stuff. Like I just like basically it's like journal entry, and then you're like,
I think for us, it always feels like busy work, and because we stage and shot list everything with the DP, like just fully locked arm in arm with the DP. There's really no use for storyboards.
But do you mean like that you're doing that almost as storyboards?
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then if there's stunt work that is poses some considerable risk, like wire work, stuff like that, we board all of that stuff out just so everybody knows what the ambition is going into the day. But when it comes to the like general action stuff, we also have found that we never have the time to do what gets boarded. And so it's easier to show up on the day with a sense of what you want to achieve story-wise, and then throw the cast and the stunt team into like the active doing of it. And there's almost so much of like the fight in the ballroom with the other bride. I mean, so much of that was designed on the day. We knew enough to like have breakaways and the action was going to take us from here to there to here, but all of the more granular details in that were really designed in the moment. And some of it was designed because Samara was struggling with a back injury at the time, and we had very limited time to shoot, and so it's just all hands on deck. And then how much, like, because obviously humor is a big part of this
film, and all of us have recently been asked a lot about how humor relates to horror and things like that. Like, and we could talk about that if you guys want to. But how much do you guys feel like on the day, like in those moments when you're like either an action sequence or whatever, like that you're adding humor on set? In addition to obviously you have a very funny writer in Guy as well, but how much is being added on set with Samara's very funny?
Yeah, I feel like kind of a lot, because I think a lot of but it's not like, sometimes it's just improv. People come up with cool shit and it's great. And then a lot of it is just giving people the kind of room to be weird and to do their little things that maybe don't seem that funny in the moment, but you get in the edit and you're like, that's my favorite moment. It's just a look this somebody did, or you know what I mean? So it's like, it's finding room for those. And then I think we're always open to, when someone has a funny idea, we're always like, let's just try it. Let's just give it a go.
How much of that makes it like in the edit? Because obviously like we both made films that are like that the humor sort of coming out from some level of reality of the situation,
yes.
or danger, or like
Totally.
making sure that you maintain a certain level of danger to then hopefully have things be funnier because of that. How much stuff was either in the edit pulled out because it was like damaging that world, or put in because it's just fun to add funny shit?
I mean, lots gets pulled out
on both sides. I feel
More stuff is getting pulled out.
Yeah.
I think that we shoot like a straight up comedy version of the film, and I shoot a very hard horror version of the film, and knowing that the balance is somewhere in the mix of those things.
So it's grosser. There's grosser. And
there's
more violent.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and some of the more real and brutal moments of violence, we overshoot that stuff so we know we have control of a dial in the edit.
Was that from the first one too, or have you guys just always like as your style? Like
it's our style.
We've always done that.
Yeah. But I think that the feeling of making a movie, and how your interpretation of it, the way it feels in your heart, your intuition changes as it starts to become more and more refined, and you start to read the movie differently, and then you show it to an audience for the first time at a preview, and you read it differently then. And there was, the sequence that I think we really calibrated at length was the bride fight and the crosscut with Titus fighting Faith. And we knew that tonally the whole movie sort of is the tone of the movie is distilled in the cross-cutting of those two very different feeling fights, even though they're equally violent. One of them is very absurdist because of the setting and the two characters in wedding dresses, and the other is meant to feel really scary and really cruel and really mean. And I think that the goal for us is to always push the movie and the audience in moments like that right to the edge, but hopefully they don't feel like the movie is turning on them, right?
Good uncomfortable, bad uncomfortable.
And that was a sequence that we cut a significant amount out of the bride fight and out of the fight in the hallway, just to keep the energy of it up and to really
it
just
got too violent. We definitely crossed the line at a certain point.
The
tell.
Yeah, I mean that one in the hallway is very intense.
And there was a more violent version that was like, that's too much. It's too much. And it was, again, it is the how do you make the audience feel like, I thought this was like a fun, silly movie. Why is it suddenly so serious? But doing it without losing them. But I do also think part of the fun sometimes is, as you get further down in the edit, you find that the movie has room for other stuff. So stuff we had cut earlier, we're like, that can get in now. Like that moment that's kind of funny or something. And then we go put it back, and then it really works. But it didn't work earlier because it's just always changing.
What's an example? I think the joy of feature editing to me is like finding those things.
The one that really pops out is in the temple when Grace first walks in, and it's that very silent, and hopefully nobody knows like what the is happening. Like the tension is in the kind of quiet calm of what the movie has decided to become in that moment. And there's that great shot of Madhu, played by Varun.
It's maybe my favorite line of the movie.
Can't see move. And it just immediately you're introduced and you're reminded of the tone, the absurdity, this sort of silliness of all of this crazy bullshit.
To be fair, we never actually took that out. we were just asked to take it out many
Yeah,
times.
well, we cut it for like a weekend, and
Yeah,
then
maybe.
we're
What, like asked to take it out by studio because it was too silly, or
because it broke the tension,
right?
And we were like, yeah, but that's the whole
yeah.
point. There is you want people to feel like what Tyler was saying. You're uncomfortable, like don't know where this movie's going and why.
Sean
what is
Hannity
happening.
Was it
broken
a test
Sarah
audience
Michelle
that
Gellar's
like
neck.
made
No, and then
allowed you to do
that's
it?
why we were like, please, we have to put it in for the test screening.
Oh, gotcha.
It has to be like it. We promise it will be good, and it was, and it's never changed. But even when it gets a laugh, it's like, is it a good laugh? It's a bad laugh. For us, we're like, that's a great laugh. It means you're in, like you're paying attention.
Yeah. Is it like because you do straddle tones and there are very intense things that are happening in this movie, both in fight sequences and there's real acting, and like how much do you guys have the time to actually rehearse, and are there certain scenes that you really wanted to make sure that you rehearsed specifically for the intensity of that? I mean, like, you know, because regardless of whether like it's a really fun, funny movie, it is very intense for the actors at times, and I don't know how much time you guys even had to do that, because, you know, it's project to project.
Very little. I mean, we had like none, and like everybody's like, they are like doing real acting, like they're good. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they're taking it very seriously, and that's kind of why the tone works, is because it is taken seriously. But we haven't really had time on any of our movies to do rehearsal.
So like rehearse. I mean, like obviously setting up
like
on the day, and
blocking.
right.
I think the only rehearsal that we did, like prep rehearsal, was, and it wasn't even a rehearsal. It was the long scene in the club room where all of the ensembles together. It's the only scene where everyone in the film is in the scene together. We got everyone onto the set that day and basically just placed them. And it wasn't dressed; it was still under construction. But we just kind of put people in their corners of the room, but it was more of an opportunity to just get everybody together and get everybody communicating, and there was really nothing technical about it. It was more of a sort of vibe check, you know, than it was an actual rehearsal.
I mean, it is nice that you have the first film, because it's almost like you're sort of pre-approved in terms of like people being like, which I would imagine was helpful for like
hugely so.
Yeah.
On the first one, even while we were filming, a lot of people were like, "What is the tone of this?" And then on this one, everybody just...
What did you say as a response to that?
I don't actually remember what we said, but some version of like, we are treating it like it's just straight ahead thriller horror. Right. It's not funny. And it will be funny, but let's no one pretend that it's going to be funny.
And you've worked with Guy Busick, who's one half of the writing team who wrote the first movie, him and R. Christopher Murphy, and then wrote the second movie. And it's very much on the page, the tone. It's, I think, one of their superpowers is writing something that is really crystal clear in its intention in terms of the balance of those things. And so, you know, when you have people who read and respond, you know they're responding for the same reasons, because it is such a bizarre mix. I think that it attracts like-minded, like-taste people.
Did any of the actors surprise you in terms of, like, I don't know, either what they brought to it or vibe? I mean, you don't have to answer that question.
I think they all do. I think the big one that I think is easy to talk about is Sean Hannity, who plays Titus, who we have been fans of for a long time. And he joined, like, I want to say 2 weeks before we started shooting. Does that feel right? It was like down to the
Sarah
wire.
Michelle were right down the wire.
They were like really last minute ads, and we're so grateful because they were so good. And Sean brought like a weird goofiness to the first half of the movie that then disappears in the second half. And he's so intense. And I think we knew that he would be intense, but I don't think we quite knew how like intense he would be. And it was one of those weird surprises. You're like, oh, this guy's scary.
It's weird because you see it on monitor occasionally, where you're like, holy shit.
You're like, damn.
I didn't read it like that.
He's intense.
Yeah.
You know? And he's very serious when he's in the scene. So it's like, it's fun to watch.
Is how big does, I mean, obviously, like, I know that you've come from a real music background, but how much is music a part of your thinking in terms of even before your production or whatever? Like, are you choosing songs that Yeah.
Yeah, on this we got really lucky. We spent a lot of time on music. It's like we love it. We try to get it into every movie, but this one, that's the Amy Winehouse song at the beginning. We had it at the end of the first movie, and loved it, but couldn't afford it, and so it went away. So as soon as we started working on this, we were like, we got to try that. Come on, like maybe we can afford it now, and then. Similarly, the Total Eclipse we had used also in the first movie, and Searchlight loved it, and we didn't, even though we put it in. And so it was this really it was actually a great experience because they didn't make us use it in the first movie, but when we got to this, we were like, guys, this is in the movie now, and it was like it, and we could afford it this time, so it was like those on one end, and then the rest were kind of just like find it in post.
Did it buy you some real cred with the studio? Were they like,
we were hoping.
Thanks, guys.
I mean, I think one of the things that I think we really focused on with those two pieces of music, particularly, was cutting and building the scene around them in a way that makes them so undeniable and so impossible to beat. The way that
we tried to
the downbeats of Amy Winehouse in the opening, like cue up with the spotlights coming on and the fanfare, all of those little things that just immediately suck you into the craft of the movie. And I think that it makes winning those battles easier because when you're dropping in, cheaper replacements, it just is so clearly not cut to support what that song is. But we're really thrilled with both of those pieces of music. And then, all of it throughout we had friends create some original music for it. And
that metal song that plays at the end was just a bud asking them to make something.
Which bud?
This band Ice Nine's Kills. And then this guy, Brian Fallon from band Gaslight Anthem, did the end song for us, which is like one of my favorite bands. And so it's like kind of that just calling friends and asking for favors.
Speaking of which, there was a song called When I Party, I F Like This.
Oh, yeah.
It's in my movie. And you asked if you could put it in. Or no, it was Samara's song, right? It was the ass. Yeah. What happened?
Yeah. We couldn't afford you, Jorm.
Oh, that's right. I did say $100,000.
I do have a cut of it with it. That I thought I said.
What part was it in?
It was in when you meet the Rajan brothers in the club.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay, gotcha. Right on. What was I gonna ask next? You guys have anything you want to talk about?
Let's talk about your movie. Are you excited?
I'm really excited. We were talking about this backstage, but Over Your Dead Body did win the audience award over their movie.
It's true.
So it was very enjoyable when you're friends with somebody to text them. I was very
suckers.
What was I going to ask you? Here, let me look at my notes. Do talk about the intersection of humor versus horror, and the just in terms of like how you edit a joke versus how horror things and the crossover there, or if you have noticed anything that enhancing the other or whatever.
I think that's the big thing, is that they enhance each other, right? I mean, that's what I feel like we found over and over. And then I think that there's like we always, there's more jokey things in the script, like more like structured jokes that almost never make it because they feel designed in a way, that
just like overly written kind of jokes.
Kind of, yeah. And it's not that that's not like a knock on the writing at all. It's just for some reason the tone has to feel so kind of like it's just flowing through it that when you feel that, it takes away from it. So those are the ones that usually go. But it's funny because with this one, I think way more than the first movie, we kind of approached it in a weird, almost a genre agnostic thing where it was like it's kind of an action movie, it's kind of a horror movie, it's kind of a thriller, it's kind of a comedy. Still the headline horror because I mean it's all Hail Satan and dead goats, but like it is getting there is like it changes that throughout the edit.
I think though that we share something really in common with you guys and Keeve and Andy. I think so much of what we find funny is in taking something that is so ridiculous and stupid and absurd and treating it in the most serious way possible, like throwing real craft at it. That to us is like everything. It allows you to do really inventive, interesting things with action. It allows you to like go really deep and hard and be earnest with the emotion and the sentimentality, like not being afraid to, really make it feel like there's great character work. And then also just go absolutely bombastic with the violence. And I mean, for us, it's all about taking this sort of heightened absurdity of the concept and then burying like real grounded characters within that insanity. And I think that to us is the intersection of those things is where our taste is and where our sense of humor is. And very much just the sort of design of what both of these movies, and I would say all of our all of our work is.
With that, the enhancement of and really going hard for all of those things and treating it all very serious. Sound effects like obviously enhance tremendously. Leaving this as our last 30 seconds, is there a funniest sound effect that we might not have picked up on, or anything that you have put in there that is deep and Easter eggy?
I mean, I know there's a somewhat controversial one with when she smacks Francesca with the keyboard. There is a C minor that you
like a.
Did you guys argue about it?
Chose a very specific note. I actually can't remember what it was now.
That you actually said it has to be a C minor.
It has to be like a C minor 7.
You want to know mine from over your dead body?
I don't know. I don't even remember why I chose it, but I was like, yeah, just because it was weird.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. When Paul Guilfoyle is stabbed in my movie, there's a tiny fart.
Oh, fantastic!
Yep, tiny little fart. Yep,
that was great.
There you go.
And if nobody else knows, you know.
Well, now too many people know. Thank you.
Note.
Thank you guys so much. I really loved the film.
Thank you guys.
Love you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. The Director's Cut is available wherever you listen to podcasts. And please share, subscribe, rate, and review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow film buffs find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America.